I used to like roller coasters and recruiting.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC, part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you're going to download this podcast, the show is always going to be free, and the show is always going to appreciate your support. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. All right. It's been a while since I've been on a roller coaster. It's been a while since we've had Scott Schrader come on the show. But I'll tell you what. Roller coaster rides today feel anything like watching college football recruiting today? I gotta admit, I'm not a fan. I'm not sure if I want to stay on the ride anymore. Scott's here. He's going to help us out with this because when it comes to recruiting, we like to use the F word. It's fluid. It's also moving really fast, as we saw today. So today I got Scott Schrader from WeAreSC.com, part of the On3 network. He's going to be our recruiting Sherpa. He's going to navigate us through this whole thing. So, Scott, this whole recruiting ride, this class, it kind of started out like we were getting on the Revolution, the roller coaster, and then all of a sudden, a lot of Trojan fans are kind of feeling a little bit of Montezuma's revenge right now. What is the state of USC's recruiting class right now? And I'm not talking about the class ranking. That's going to go up. That's going to go down like a roller coaster. Just talk about the class in general. Where's USC with recruiting?
Well, first of all, my F word is a lot different than the one that you But I think the state of USC recruiting is that it's a lot more challenging for USC to recruit than fans realize. It's just the we're USC thing, that sounds good and it's great where fans have that type of love for their school and their football program. Right. But USC hasn't played defense for more than a decade. They have not had any sustained success for 2 decades. Maybe not 2 decades. We'll go 15 years since Lane Kiffin was hired, right? They had one good year then. They had a couple years during Clay Helton. So that's 3 years where they won 10 games or more. Okay.
Well, I've made that point. USC has not had a sustained 2-year period of excellence.
No.
In a long time.
So, I think, and you hear fans oftentimes talk about, we're not taking football seriously, and you've had these conversations with your audience, so I'm not going to go on a rant about that, but USC is taking football as seriously as any football program in the country. Okay. And you don't build $350 million football facilities and add a 100-yard football field and add the staff that USC has, and the NIL program now is flourishing. You don't have that if you're not taking football seriously. Now, it took USC a little while longer than they would have wanted to get their NIL collective going, but House of Victory it's well funded. But I think what the state of USC is that it's just been a constant, play good football and they will come. It's just like every year it's the same thing repeated. But that is kind of where they're at. So I think they have a coaching staff right now to where the players they're recruiting are coming to USC not just to go take a West Coast visit or just say they've been to Los Angeles now. They're coming because they say the coaching staff is really good. Most of these guys that they're serious about that have come on official visits, not all of them, but many of them have seen USC practices, so they know what that looks like. And that's the first step on having an understanding of what a football program feels like, is getting to see how these coaches coach their players and how they conduct themselves in the rooms and so on. And so I think they're at a point right now to where they had a commitment from a couple of guys from Georgia they had no business getting commitments from. Right. So, pardon me for being, the participation trophy guy today, but, it's like to even get those guys to come out here and commit is insane to me. Okay, so now you those guys have gone away, and you had another decommitment in Drake Stubbs, who said the distance was too far. That's just a reality. Okay, if you go look at the average number of miles that these players are from home at USC, Washington, Oregon versus Alabama and these other schools back there, I mean, it's like 1,700 miles versus 350 max. And so
I was just saying, people don't understand that. When you go to school in Tennessee, you might be from Georgia or you might be from Kentucky. It's still a driving distance, but it's still within driving distance, within a day's drive.
it is. It's even when I point out stuff for somebody like me that's been to all these SEC towns, now. If Atlanta, for example, Julian Lewis is had a Joe Biden moment for a minute there. You have these guys that can drive 90 minutes to Auburn, 90 minutes to Tuscaloosa, 2 hours to Athens, Georgia, 3.5 hours to Knoxville. Ole Miss is close enough too. So you're not going through security. You're not going on airplanes. You eliminate all of that. And what people don't realize also is that it's not just the kids. Families, there's young families. And so they have to pack up the kids and get on airplanes and so on. But, anyway, they're in a nutshell, I think USC is in a really, really strong spot right now, but they got to go out and play good football. But they're going to have some really significant commitments coming up in the next week.
Without a doubt. You sit on more info and news and nuggets than you probably want to, but that's why you've been able to develop the relationship you have, is because there's a time and a place when to drop the information. Now, you touched a little bit about, the distance, the travel, that a lot of these kids are considering when they're choosing a school, which brings me to my question about the local recruiting. There's a perception out there that, Coach Riley and the staff, that maybe they're taking for granted the local programs, the Long Beach Polys, the Mater Days, the St. John Boscos, that they show up to their showcases like all the other coaches. You and I understand why. It's just a bunch of coaches hanging around talking, hey, how was your spring? How was your summer type of thing, yada, yada, yada. How can USC change that perception, though?
I'm not really sure how they're going to change the perception until they start signing more guys from Southern California, I would guess. Last year they were, it just turns out last year, hanging on to Alex Grinch for another year just really put them behind the 8 ball with defensive recruiting. And there were some guys they really could have used, local guys, but there was no chance they were going to USC unless, they did turn the defense around last season. And when it ended up like we all envisioned it, where it was a complete, it was a disaster, the defense, right? So they had that issue lingering before the season started. Guys were looking at there and didn't want to go play for an Alex Grinch coordinated defense, so they were up against that. I think they were after actually quite a few guys last year. I think this year the class really isn't that strong in Southern California. We'll just talk Southern California right now because there are guys in Northern California like Jackson Lloyd. Those, you can't let those guys get away either. So there are a handful of guys that in this class that you got to start keeping those guys home. But again, USC was an 8-5 program last year after the bowl game. So you're fighting against Oregon. Oregon's got an NIL collective that's nobody is even sniffing what they're capable of doing. First of all, they won a lot of games last year. They played in the Pac-12 championship game, and now this season, heading into this season, they're in the talk about winning a national championship. So there's a little bit more momentum going on there. But at the same time, Oregon's going to have the same problem USC will with Justice Terry and Isaiah Gibbs. Those guys aren't going there either. So the distance thing is a big factor. And they're going after a lot of out-of-state kids. So you're kind of at the point where you have to play a football season, hope the season goes well, and those guys are going to be in play later in the process versus maybe offering some of the local guys who aren't quite as good in your view. And they can just get in their car and drive to USC, and it's so much simpler. So I don't know if I even answered your question, but
I think you did.
Yeah.
You did, because it comes down to the local kids, like you said. They need to see, they can hear the vision. They can listen to Coach Riley and Coach Henney talk about the defense's vision of what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Nobody's seen it. Yeah. The worst thing that happened to USC last year was USC's 2022 season when Lincoln Riley took over. 11 wins, Heisman Trophy. You had a bunch of turnovers that the defense created, but it was fool's gold. And it's like, all right, next year they're going to take that next step. And you know what? We're not going to have to worry about, Caleb Williams' hamstring popping and keeping us out of the conference championship game.
Yeah.
Well, we all watched what happened in 2023. It went from bad to worse, and it just kind of snowballed. So, yeah. The kids, the local coaches, I guess, as well as the recruits, they got to see it. We can talk about it, and we can get commitments, from guys from across the country.
Yeah.
But, it's not the same. They got to see it. And like you said, once USC's winning and showing that, hey, yeah, we're going to play defense again, those guys will say, you know what? I don't need to go to Oregon. I can stay home and go to USC.
Yeah, I mean, it's a reality. And there's coaches that I talk to from all the different states. And we can even just narrow it down to Texas, Georgia, Florida, the Carolinas, and places, Louisiana. And, they're just like, once USC figures this out and does get to that point, and at some point they are going to. I mean, it's not going to go like this for infinity. All right, there's enough history at USC. It still has the location. We can get into the debate about Southern California and LA. The bottom line is, for a lot of these kids, it's still a very attractive place to come. But they got to depend. USC is going to get the out-of-state guys that want different. You're not going to win the argument with a kid from Georgia by saying, come play for Coach Henney and come play for Coach Lincoln Riley and be in LA and we're building a program. Well, Justice Terry doesn't need to go to a building program. Okay, so you have to offer him something that is so unique beyond the football part. And don't get me wrong, Coach Henney is damn unique, but they got a dude at Georgia too. Okay, right. So right, yeah. So you're battling. The odds were just really, really low, but you got to go after those guys. I just like in learning more in June than I knew heading into June. USC was kind of like, look, we're going to ride this into June. We're going to figure out who's really serious about us, and we're going to cut ties and figure this out and go after the guys that we really do think we have a shot at. And there's guys out there like a Malik Autry who nobody's talking about that USC has a shot at getting. Look, Cardi Smith came out here this weekend. Had a great visit. There was even some talk about. There was a mom saying, "My kid's got to come play here. He's got to play here." USC. I don't know who it was, but might have been his mom, right? So you have to win mom too. I guess I wasn't even going to add that part, but the USC they have a chance to really, really have a great recruiting class, and it's not just like a pipe dream. They're really in it with these guys right now. So, but at the same time, they have to close the deal themselves by. It doesn't have to be a 11-1 season. It's got to be an 8-4 better season, and you have to look good.
The way I put it is, look, USC, the schedule is challenging. There's no doubt about that, but it's manageable, and you have a 12-team playoff system starting. 10 wins, and your name is USC under 10 wins. You're going to the playoffs. Yeah. So again, the worst thing that can happen to college football happened when Pete Carroll took over, and that's USC dominating college football. USC has half the equation. They know how to score points. They're not going to stop scoring points without Caleb Williams. Lincoln Riley still has that going on up here.
Oh, yeah.
He knows to take quarterbacks and work it. Match Lincoln Riley's offense up with a competent defense, and everyone around the country is going, oh, crap, they're back. Now what do we do? Yeah. Because people don't like hearing it, but it's true. USC has some unique advantages: weather, location. The NIL opportunities are bar none better than anywhere else in the country, even if Oregon's NIL program starts at $20 million every year. They don't have the same opportunities that they can offer once you get that signing bonus.
Yeah, well, I think you're going to see USC get more creative with their NIL also, and not just depending on the fundraising by House of Victory. There are opportunities that I think that USC finally is realizing they were missing out on. There's places like, you have we'll just like throw a company name out there, like a Tesla, right? They gave $5 million to the local high school that was the closest high school to where they're located,
Okay.
and in Austin, Texas, and that's like some serious money for a high school to do that.
Right.
No, excuse me, they give them $5 million for 10 years, every year, $5 million. So they build these facilities, not just football. This school is going all in with the money they're spending, because they can. I mean, for 50 million, you can do quite a bit. So you're looking at, I've always made the joke to where it seems insane to me that you're not getting, Jeannie Buss is a USC alum, and you're not getting anything from the Lakers. You're not using the Lakers, really.
We're going to save the Lakers for my rant at the end of the show.
I know, okay, but yeah, you know what I mean though by when I'm saying this.
Yes.
You've got other things. Good Lord, I think you might have been a conversation. I don't want to go too long because I know you're timed on this, but you have a situation to where you could just get the hip hop community in Southern California to just do a concert for you, probably raise $20 million. So there's just so many different ways you can do this, and it just takes some effort, and it takes some coordination. I don't know, you need to have the right people to pull that off too. I don't know who that is.
Well, I'll tell you
Gavin Morris.
Yeah, you just threw out a hell of an idea. So I hope whoever's listening from USC, that's a great idea. Throw a concert.
Yeah.
I'll be back in 1 second. Passion, drive, and patience. What bring home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because of eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Should probably take that off there. Yeah, we're done with you. All right, let me ask you this. These are easier questions, Scott. Now, and you touched on it a little bit in the first segment, but just elaborate slightly on this. Describe the different cultures between high school football in places like SoCal compared to Georgia, where USC is recruiting heavily, Florida, Texas. Do you think Lincoln Riley feels more comfortable with that culture compared to the SoCal culture?
Well, I think it depends on position, on kind of like what they're looking for. I do think, you have a conversation with like a Coach Henney, for example. Even like with the transfer portal this offseason, they were looking to add some serious size. The USC is really looking to go large, obviously, and so those are the guys they're looking for, and you're not going to be able to fill your defensive or I think offensive line. I think you can actually pull that off. I don't know what the difference is. I think the athleticism has to be a little bit more present with the defensive guys, and I think the large and really athletic guys are just located in different parts of the country in larger numbers. Right. So you go do that. I think that as far as the culture, I think that you have a lot of really good coaches in Southern California. You have a lot of talented football players. I just think that those other states are investing a lot more money in their athletes than they do in California. So you have far better facilities, which means you have far better weight rooms, and you have, it's just you have programs that aren't necessarily available here in facilities that you don't have in California. And I don't want to say that, look, we're also talking about, there's programs in Southern California that do too. I'm just talking about collectively, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, do these coaches maybe have better relationships with some of the high school coaches in other parts of the country? I would guarantee you they do. Sure. Somebody like Doug Belk came here with some pretty strong relationships, in other parts of the country, but he had to get to know people, and there was like a little gap in communication with Brandon Lockhart, 2026 quarterback commit, because of that, and sometimes these younger guys, they need a little attention too, even though that's not your current class. You still have to be showing those guys some love. And I think, they've taken care of all that, because this was a completely new staff that came in. So they were doing a little catch up. They just weren't from here. Right. So what do? You depend on your support staff to tell you, go see these guys. And that's kind of where Eric Henderson was. I asked him if he was evaluating guys in the last recruiting class, and he was just like, look, I went where they told me to go. So I think you're also going to see a little bit more of this is not really related, but Eric Henderson is going to be more involved with non-defensive line recruiting as well. I mean, he already is. And I think that even Cardi Smith from the offensive lineman from Mobile, Alabama, he's a guy that he's involved with, and so is D. Reddick from Georgia. So, but I don't even know where we're going with this, but it's the culture is, you have some really good coaches out here, and the culture is really. I love Southern California high school football. It's just there's not the same energy.
I think that was the bottom line of my question, and maybe I'm just not phrasing it the right way. Maybe those other areas take it a little bit more seriously than certain programs. Look, there's certain programs in SoCal, they can go anywhere in the country, compete and win, and they do it annually. But like you said, on the whole, maybe it's just a little bit more part of the DNA in those parts of the country compared to SoCal.
Yeah, it is. There's no question about it. Even go to Carrollton, Georgia, where Juju and Shamar are new. I was saying Arno, but
so was I. I'm glad you corrected it.
Yes, we need names correct. That's like a Texas community essentially in Georgia. They have it's. I think they have a couple of high schools, maybe even more than a couple, but Carrollton's got the beautiful stadium, the indoor facility, and you don't need an indoor facility in Southern California, but good Lord, until about 2 years ago, Long Beach Poly's weight room was outdoors, kind of. So let's just. We're talking about one of the best football programs historically ever.
You could say the same thing about Bosco or Mater Dei. Yeah. You look at their facilities; they're not the greatest, but they, get in the dungeon, work, and develop. That's what it's all about. Doesn't matter how pretty the weights are; they all weigh the same. So,
I mean, it's kind of had a conversation with Jakeem Stewart and his coach, Clyde Alexander, on the way from USC area to the Elite 11. And we were talking about facilities, and I asked if they were given some type of a presentation on USC's new facilities, and they were, and I was like, well, they're going to be, it's like the reply was by Clyde was that they're going to be the best in the country, bar none. But he said it's probably going to last for a week because Oregon's already building their own too. So, but that's kind of where we're at, arms race here. But they backtracked and said, but you give me a weight room and I'm fine.
Exactly.
In the end, all that beautiful stuff is great because you got therapeutics and you've got rehab and you got stuff that matters a lot. But if we're just talking about weight rooms and stuff like that, it's like whatever.
Before I take a break into our next segment here, so the chances of Jakeem Stewart reclassifying and being a part of the 2025 class. I know a lot of Trojan fans are thinking, you know what, that's probably our best chance of getting an anchor type of guy that other players are going to want to play with from other parts of the country. Sean Cody was Pete Carroll's anchor recruit.
Yeah.
USC needs that type of body on the other side of the ball. What are the chances of Jakeem Stewart reclassifying for 2025?
I think the chances are very high that's going to happen. And, and USC has, this is an article I'm going to write in the next day or two is that, his recruitment is you can't compare it to a Justice Terry or Isaiah Gibson or even Elijah Griffin for that matter, because with Jakeem Stewart, what you have is a guy that will be visiting potentially if he comes in. They can't come in July, so that the visit in July was potentially going to happen at the end of July. But and he's been on campus 4 times. His coach has an open mind. He has watched USC get to where it did during the Pete Carroll era, so he knows USC. We've had this conversation before. He says, "I know USC can win championships because they've done that." And I don't know if he added that the number of times they won national championships, but what is it? What is the total at now? 11?
Yes, they claim 11.
Okay, whatever, right? Alabama, some of theirs are just as dicey as USC, so whatever. But they've proven that they can be the best team in college football for a sustained period of time, and that's actually a big deal for Jakeem Stewart and for Coach Clyde. So they're looking at, but I just think that he's a guy USC. If he gets down to like a top 2, USC is going to be in it.
Okay, Trojan fans, that should make you feel good. Scott's already told you that there are more commitments coming. Okay, we might be on that roller coaster ride right now where it's kind of that taking you to the top, and things are going to get exciting real soon. We've had some peaks, we've had some valleys. It's going to be okay. We use the F word. Recruiting is fluid. We're in June. You want to use a stronger F word? Absolutely. We do that too all the time.
Yeah.
Blake Wheels let Notre Dame know exactly how he felt when he was a Trojan. So, on that note, I'll be right back. I love sports. I love them so much. I never wanted to stop. If USC football and USC basketball can go 24/7, 365, I'm on it. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports, we get Major League Baseball. That's what we're getting right now. And I'm a big Dodgers fan, but FanDuel lets you keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up any bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, Scott, it's Friday, and I always end the week with a Friday rant. Today, you can stick around if you want to chime in. Please be more than I know you're a huge Laker fan. I am as well. I'm going to start my Friday rant with this. As I mentioned, I talked about roller coasters and recruiting and how they kind of come together for me. By the way, you've ridden Montezuma's Revenge at Knott's Berry Farm?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they're actually renaming it Montezuma's Revenge. They're keeping the name, but they're changing the spelling. Yeah, it went woke. It's now going to be called Montezuma, Zooma, instead of Montezuma, the Aztec warrior. Anyways, whatever. That's my first rant.
Okay.
All right. A lot of my everydayers, they know this. I have been on Lakers strike, and it's been really difficult because I'm a huge Lakers fan. I will not watch the Lakers while LeBron James is on that team. Everything he touches turns to crap when it's done. And the Lakers franchise, since he's joined, they won a COVID championship that nobody watched, that nobody got to see. But now I know that LeBron's going to be around for at least another year because the Lakers wasted their second-round draft pick on Bronny James. And I have nothing against Bronny James. I do not hold the son responsible for the father, okay? But my rant is right now, Jeannie Buss, your dad would not approve of this. The way you are running this team into the ground, it's criminal. And I'm not talking negatively about Bronny or about a USC Trojan, but Bronny would not be on this team if LeBron was not on this team. He was selected with the 55th pick in the second round. The dude averaged less than 5 points. He was at USC for a year. You know how many times he spoke to the media? Once. And that was a quick 3 minutes. Thanks for the support. I'm glad I'm okay. And everybody's glad he's okay after his medical ordeal. But after that, he never spoke to the media. Like I said, I got nothing against Bronny. Nothing. He's not his father's keeper. But between Jeannie Buss, Trojan, and Rob Pelinka, LeBron James, Gopher, the Lakers program is, I don't know. I feel like it's turning into the Clippers. And it's really bothering me because I have to go another year, but I'm not going to watch the Lakers. Now, I'm making this choice, obviously. But Bronny's taking a roster spot from somebody. And that's shameful. Because this team right now, the way it's, even if they make the playoffs, you're going to watch them go out in the first round again? Are you loving that? All right. That's my rant on the Lakers. Scott, you got anything you want to get off your chest before the weekend comes in? Let me ask you, what is the worst part about recruiting? What do you hate about recruiting? I know what your favorite part is. You could save that for the end.
I think that it's just you have the same mentality of the people you're reporting to as it was in 2005, in that we never had to worry about putting a prediction in for a guy and then literally the next freaking day that you had to change it.
Right.
Or now we're living in a world where an example I use all the time, and this is probably as extreme as it gets, but there was a kid a couple years ago. He was a highly impressionable rising sophomore, and he commits to Washington, and I swear to you, he was at Arizona on a photo shoot the next day. Recruiting photo. Remember the photo? They used to bring recruits in, and everybody had to have the damn photo shoot, right?
Right.
So it was so ridiculous. So guys would go visit schools so they could have the USC or the Michigan or the Ohio State or Texas, Alabama photo shoot. Alabama might have been a lot tougher to get that photo shoot than it was at other places. But so it's just like, good Lord, it's just so many variables, and so answers are expected. And there's just no like definitive answer that you can give people a lot of the times. Yet people will get upset that you can't give them that. And it's just like, look, unless you live with these kids in some cases, and even the parents sometimes, even the coaches, like Ryan Pelham, his brother, who was the head coach at Millikan, didn't know he was going to flip his commitment to Oregon. So
Yeah.
I don't enjoy just that roller coaster aspect of it, and there's always been a roller coaster aspect to it. There's always been decommitments and stuff like that. But, I don't like to where how difficult it is. And I don't even mind the fact that we're really not even needed anymore from our perspective. These kids can go report everything on their social media pages. Now, it would be kind of silly.
Right.
But, when we started out in this business, like the site at 247 currently, for example, everything had to be reported there. Offers, visits, what the visit was like, where they were going to visit next. And they came to our message board. It was the only place to go. There was no Facebook. There was no other message. There's no Reddit. There weren't all these different options that you have now. So now, you're still trying to answer and still engage with these people on the message board like you always have. But, you're constantly feel like you're giving an answer that could change like in 10 minutes. And it's frustrating at times because it exhausts you at times. But at the same time, this is a job that a lot of people would do for free. So I'm not going to say, I'm asked all the time, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing great, because there's absolutely no reason for me to complain about anything. But you did ask me, Mark, so I am now answering, not complaining.
Scott, I'm the same way. Chris Arledge, our good friend over there, WeRC.com, part of the Inside the Trojan Huddle, our podcast that we do over there on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
He will corner me like that as well. But look, I tell people all the time, yeah, this is a job, but it doesn't feel like work. I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. Yeah. As frustrating as it is when you think you're bringing out some great news and then, oh, you know what? There's a decommitment. That's part of the game. But it is what it is. All right, Scott, your favorite part, and then we're out of here for this. What is your favorite part of recruiting?
The people that I meet. I mean, honestly, that for me, it's just the people that you meet and the relationships that you build, and it's just, for an example, was just recently at the Elite 11 final. Somebody asked me, he's like, "Why you come out here?" And I said, well, I could start with this. My first answer was, there is no other place, time, or venue where I can go see the top 22 quarterbacks in the country on the same property. Okay, so we'll start with that. But sometimes that event is the only time I will see some people. So, it's kind of like, you look at it that way. Maybe the event's not as great as it could possibly be. Maybe the turnout wasn't what you would prefer. But, you see some people. And anytime you get out and you're seeing people and you're talking to people wherever I'm going, like even I went back to Jackson Carman for his commitment announcement. And, USC was in the top 3. USC thought they had a really good shot at getting him. And he committed to Clemson. It wasn't a shock he didn't commit to USC, but people were making fun of me going there and so on and so forth. And we sold 40 subs off the story on why he didn't commit to USC. So, it's getting out and seeing people, and I think that part I really like. There's probably many other parts I could say, but I really enjoy the social part of it.
Look, for me, it's a little bit of a longer term thing, but it's seeing a young man who's a junior or a senior in high school, and then let's say he comes to USC, and then all of a sudden 3-4 years later, I remember that guy when he was a kid in high school.
Yeah.
Look, now I wait for that development. That's my favorite part of watching recruiting, is watching these young men develop into mature young men.
Oh, if it was back, I don't even know what year this is. All these years now seem like one, all the way back to Marcellus Williams, for example. We went over to Sarah. I was with somebody we both know, Scott May, and and I walk onto the field at Sarah High School, and here's Marcellus Williams, all 5 foot 80 pounds, running up to me. Hey, how you doing? We gave him his first 5-star ranking when he was 10.
I remember.
I made a profile page for him, but that's a family. That's like there's unique situations too, like the Williams family, who, good Lord, I dearly love. I mean, this family is just amazing.
Good people.
Yeah, Max Mason is the middle kid, and then you have Marcellus, and you got Big Max, and their mom is just like tremendous. But but like Celis, this is a guy that I've been watching play football since he was 10 years old. Now we're probably gonna be watching him play in the NFL in 3 years. He's like that good.
Isn't that crazy? It's
amazing.
All right, Scott, before I let you, where can everybody find you 5 times a week, 7 times a week? Where are you? What are you doing?
We are at wearesc.com. That's wearesc.com. Part of the On3 network. You come out and first of all, I want to say this about us. Okay. We put out content. We put out articles. Yes. And we answer questions on the message board. And we really are informative, and we give a great perspective, the whole team that we have here, us two included. But the best part of our site is our community, our message board community. It's just tremendous. It's far less toxic, I'm told, than others. Yeah, it's popping. We got some traffic, got some great people. $1 you can try us out for 30 days, and you can go read every message. I'm sorry.
Use code USC1 and you get 2 months for $1.
Thank you. I forgot that code. So you can go and on all the other message boards too. You can't post on it, but all the other, like the Alabama sites and Ohio State site, Michigan site, Oregon site, you can go read everything, every story, every message board. If you're a junkie, I don't know how you could pass this up.
Look, I bring all my news and notes and everything I can to this site, all to Locked On USC every day. But you want all of your recruiting information, and you want it to be accurate, and you want it when it happens, as it happens, sometimes before it happens. When you're done making Locked On USC your first listen every day, get on over to wearesc.com, read Scott's recruiting information, read Eric McKinney's team and recruiting information.
Yes.
And when Greg Katz gets back, read his stuff, and do not miss anything that Chris Arledge throws out there. Because 1, there's going to be a lot of truth. 2, there's going to be a lot of facts. And 3, you're probably going to laugh because it's all so good. All right. That's it for this episode. I will be back with another 5 episodes next week. There will be recruiting information. There will be team updates. And I want to say thank you again to Scott Schrader from wearesc.com, the recruiting guru, our Sherpa. Anytime we need news, this is the guy. All right. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.
All right.